This book is another super difficult one to rate. Hey guys, it's Claire. Welcome back to my channel. As you can see, we are back in the cozy chair by the piano because today we are doing June reading recap. I know this reading recap is coming so late. My life has just honestly been so busy lately, but you know what? Better late than never. It's here now, and yeah, we're gonna talk about everything I read in June. So I made it through a total of 6 books this month, so I'm just gonna go through them all and give kind of my review and rating. So let's get into it. Okay, June started off so strong. The first book I read was The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. This book was so good. You guys know I'm so picky about love stories and romance books, but this book was just like, it was perfect. I don't know why or how, but I like really wasn't cringing hardly at all during this book. The storyline was so good, the characters were so good. Honestly, like, it was a 5-star read. It was incredible. You guys know last month I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and then I also read the second book in the series, Good Girl Bad Blood. And so this month I of course had to dive into the third book in the series, As Good as Dead. As you can see, this book was quite thick. It took quite a while to get through, partially because it was long, but mostly because this storyline was just interesting. If you guys saw my last reading recap, you guys know that I gave the first 2 books in this series 5 stars. They were both amazing, but this one I had a really hard time with. I feel like I've seen a lot of people saying that this is the best book in the series, this is their favorite one, that gave it 5 stars, but I honestly just did not love it. I honestly don't even know where to like start with this review. I think that it's just really hard. Okay, I don't really like want to spoil anything. I mean, it's just really sad the way that Pip changed and how like just hard her heart got, and honestly like how the good girl in her kind of just disappeared and how twisted her thoughts and world became after the experiences of her past 2 cases, especially the last one. And I mean, to actually go through something like what Pip had to go through in the last book, I mean, I can see how that really messed her up. But honestly, this book just kind of, it was really dark and it was really sad, and it was just, there was no clear lines between good and evil, and I definitely kind of feel like that's what the author was going for. And a lot of Pip's things that she was figuring out in the book is that everything is not always black and white, which is true, but some of the things Pip was doing in this book was just not great, and the whole storyline kind of just got a little bit, it just ended up getting very twisted. So overall, it was an enjoyable read, and it definitely was, it was still a good book, but the storyline just, it was not as good as the other 2. The Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy as a whole, I would still say is a 5-star trilogy. This particular book though, I'm gonna have to give it 3 stars, which I know like technically if you were to do the math, like a 3-star rating in a trilogy would bring the rating down, but I'm just saying as a whole, the trilogy is a 5-star for me, but this particular book is a 3-star. I definitely won't reread it, but if you're gonna read the trilogy, like don't like just skip the last book. So because I liked The Do-Over so much, I decided to read another Lynn Painter book. So next I read Betting on You by Lynn Painter. I don't actually have a copy of this because I listened to it on audiobook, and then I ended up not ordering a copy of it because I don't think the paperback has come out yet. I don't know, I just like for some reason didn't end up ordering it, so I don't have it because I listened to it, but I put a picture up on the screen. Honestly, I don't have too much to say about this book. It was okay. By the end, I was so done with it. I was just like, let's just wrap it up. But overall, it was decent. The characters were okay. The storyline was okay. There are a few things in this one that I didn't love. There were a few things that I did like. Overall, I'm gonna give it 2.5 stars, just like right in the middle. The next book I read is Romantic Comedy by Curtis Sittenfeld. I hope I'm saying that last name right. this book is another super difficult one to rate, just like As Good as Dead, because I just, there were some things that I just so enjoyed about this book, and there were some things that I just absolutely hated. In my May reading recap, I kind of gave a more in-depth review of Better Than the Movies, and I think romantic comedy is going to be the book this month that I kind of give a more in-depth review on, because I have some opinions and some mixed feelings on this. Okay, I have a lot to say, so I'm just gonna start off with the positives of this book. The positives were, overall the writing was decent. I really liked the way it was written. I liked how the middle section was them emailing back and forth. That was just like kind of like a fun change from just reading chapters. The writing was good. The storyline had a lot of potential. It's basically about this girl who is a writer, and she writes sketches for the show called The Night Owl, which is basically Saturday Night Live. And I really like that story. Like, as an actress, especially like a film actress, I really liked just hearing about like the behind the scenes stuff and the making of the comedy show. That was really enjoyable. Some things that are just like to note. I'm not saying that these are good or bad points of the story. I'm just saying as like a PSA to anyone who reads this kind of. The second half of this book does take place during COVID, during the pandemic. So if you don't want to read about that, I don't recommend this book. And it also is kind of a bit of a political book. So if you want to avoid books like that. Okay, now let's talk about some things that I had issues with. Overall, the book was not unbearably spicy. I definitely skipped some pages just because I don't like any spice, so if I think that some spice is coming, I'm just like skip, skip, skip. I feel like there might have been a spice scene, but again, I can't even say for sure because I just skip pages if I see like potential. So yeah, I'm not sure about that, but I wouldn't consider this like an overwhelmingly spicy book. On that note, the book would be completely fine. I'd just be reading and chilling, and then all of a sudden there would be this line that just kind of like turned my stomach and was gross. So that really annoyed me because it would just be like, I'd read like 3 chapters. I'd be like, oh yeah, this is so good. I'd just be getting into it, and then I read this line and be like, oh, like, bye. I'll come back to you on another day. So yeah, that like definitely deducts points for me because I feel like stuff like that is just so unnecessary as someone who just is like a little innocent teenage girl who hates like spicy, gross whateverness. That was just kind of, there were a few parts where I was just like, look, I considered DNFing the book, but because I was kind of into the storyline, I kept picking it back up and just like focusing on the good parts and ignoring the bad parts. But yeah, so yeah, there were just a few things in this book that I just found so unnecessary. I guess that might be personal preference, but I also feel like it's not just personal preference, it's a fact of there were some lines in here that were unnecessary. My other issue was the main character. The main guy I actually appreciated, like he was actually a decent character. The girl, however, I honestly couldn't really figure out what I wanted to say until a little while ago. I saw this review on Goodreads of the book by Jack. I'll put it up on the screen. I have no idea who this person is. But he said, writing a book called romantic comedy where the main protagonist is 1, unlovable and 2, unfunny is frankly unforgivable. That might be a little bit harsh. It's honestly accurate. The main girl really is just not a character that I came to love at all. She had her moments where I thought she was sweet or had like some cool ideas or whatever, but overall she was just not lovable. Her personality, the choices she would make, and also her views on what romance and relationships are were extremely sad, and she was not funny. But anyways, that was my more in-depth review on this book. Overall, I'm gonna give it a 2-star because I had a lot of issues with it, but the like storyline, if you just pick out the storyline from all the like details, the storyline was enjoyable. The next book I read was The Ministry of Time by Callie Ann Bradley. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Once again, I don't have this one. I listened to an audiobook and I meant to order it, but again, that just didn't happen. Like I said, my life has actually been insane lately, so yeah. But I read this book mostly because Haley Pham, you guys have probably heard of her, she's an incredible book YouTuber, loved this book and totally recommended it and like raved about it. So I was like, okay, I'll read it. I just didn't like it and I just could not get into it. I thought that the storyline was unique and interesting and had potential, but just the writing and the characters, I just could not get into it. And also my brain, like, I had such a hard time following the storyline. I could not always figure out what was happening. And once again, I just didn't love the main character. And if you don't really like the main character or even like the main characters, then it's just really hard to get into a book. So the Ministry of Time was basically about like this ministry that had figured out time travel, and so they were taking people from different times in the past and time traveling them to present day, and then they would basically go and stay with these people to try and like adjust to the normal world. I think that the storyline was pretty cool and had some good potential, but I feel like sometimes the main character wasn't always the best influence on the guy from the past that was living with her. That's not like, she didn't do anything like that horrible, but at one point she gave him like, why? That was an unnecessary part of the book in my opinion. Like, that didn't need to happen. Just like little things like that I was just like, that's just unnecessary. I'm just gonna give it 2 stars. Had a decent storyline if you just pulled out the storyline and trashed all the details. Honestly, very similar to the romantic comedy, not the storylines, but like the review of just like the bones are there, but the things that were just, the details were just not my favorite. And finally, we wrapped up the month with Killjoy by Holly Jackson. This was the perfect way to end the month. As you can see, this is like the tiniest little book. It took me like 2 seconds to read. This is the novella to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. So it takes place before the first book. So it kind of just gave like just a little bit more about Pip and her friends and what kind of prompted her to start the investigation in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This book was easy to read, super fun, super lighthearted, not scary at all. There was not like an actual mystery. It was just like a murder mystery party. Honestly, I would read about Pip and the people in Hawkins any day, and this was so cute. Like, if I'm ever bored one afternoon, I would totally pick this back up and read it again because it was super cute and made me want to throw a murder mystery party myself. And at the end, this character comes in, and it's just like, it's almost like a give you chills moment because you know what happens with this character in the next book, but like it hasn't happened yet because this is before. So this was really enjoyable. It's literally only 100 pages long, so it like hardly even counts as a whole book, but I mean, 5 stars. It was really cute. Okay guys, so that is everything I read in the month of June. This month was very interesting. A lot of like interesting things were read, but overall it was a good month of reading. And yeah, I'm already knee deep in my reading for July because video is coming out so late, but I can't wait to share those books with you later. So make sure you're subscribed and you turn on the bell to receive notifications every time I post so you don't miss my July reading recap and all the other uploads I release. I post shorts every day, I live stream all the time, and then I post a couple full-length videos every month. Thank you again for watching, and let me know down below what your favorite book you read in June was, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!